Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Our 2022 Ford Maverick Hybrid XL long-term test vehicle has finally hit the milestone of 5,000 miles, so it's time for a test drive update. If you watch our channel regularly, you know that last summer we placed an order for our own long-term test vehicle, 2022 Ford Maverick Hybrid, and this is an XL base model with only a single option. I wanted the cheapest possible truck that we could get. I like to have a base vehicle when we do testing because so often the automakers always send us fully loaded vehicles, like in the case of a Maverick, a Lariat, or an XLT FX4, things like that. So I wanted to see what the vehicle they advertised for $20,000 at 40 miles to the gallon was really like to live with. So fast forward to today, we have logged 5,000 miles, and I can tell you that I have learned a lot about what this truck is like to live with, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Part of living with this truck has been the interior, and having 5,000 miles logged in under 4 months, I've been spending a lot of time sitting right where you see me. And so if you look at our original review that we did on the truck test drive review, I talked about a few things, and some of the things they talked about ring true today. Now this interior, as you can see right now, these pictures, looks a little bit more lived in. It's not perfectly clean and detailed like you might find a lot of our press vehicles that we test. There's a little bit of dust here and there. There's some marks, and this hard plastic material that you see on the door panels and the dash, especially on the door panels, picks up a lot of dust and marks from your body when you get in and out of the truck. You can see on the lower part of the door panel there where my boot brushes by it. It has to be cleaned quite a bit. I've talked about these seats not being the most comfortable in the world, and they don't have a lot of height range adjustment, which is to say they don't go up and down like this, they go up and down like this. And so it takes a while to sort of get used to the seating position, where a lot of cars give you so much adjustment range you can get it right where you want it right away. The materials in here seem to be wearing very well. The seat material itself has remained pretty sturdy. I've seen some conversation out there about people who had problems with the material wrinkling on the seats already. So far, I've not had that problem. I do find that this plastic steering wheel in the XL is pretty slippery sometimes, the material itself. I have found that the layout and design of this interior is very good for living in this vehicle every day. The cup holders right there, the storage cubbies. I have plenty of storage here that I use on the daily. I'm still not a big fan of this twist style gear selector. I have found many times where even though you get used to it, you still have to look down and see where you're at, or sometimes you're in a different gear than you think you are. Sometimes you just don't have that tactile knowing where it's at based on the location of your gear lever, where you don't have to look down and double check. And that's the main reason I don't like these things. Plus, it's just a way for them to save money. In the Ranger that they just introduced for 2023, they put a lever in it, and they put out a press release stating the fact that they put a lever in it because buyers didn't like the knob. Yet here it is. Now, the infotainment system. This thing is still jinky as all get out. I talked about this in my original test drive as being akin to a clock radio in its audio quality as well as its performance. The audio quality, this is okay for an inexpensive vehicle. I was not expecting the B&O sound system here, but with all of the things that this offers, the Bluetooth connectivity, the Android Auto, the Apple CarPlay functionality, it doesn't perform all that well doing those things. And so what happens sometimes is it freezes up. When you try to use Android Auto and plug in, it tends to go blank, and then it tends to be very slow and very clunky to use. And so much so that I've just opted not to use Android Auto. When you plug in, unplug, it can take a minute or two for it to refresh and get ready to go. So I have depended on my audio through Bluetooth connectivity using Pandora, Sirius XM, and so forth. And there what I find is that it doesn't always automatically connect. It's jinky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes I can go all day and it'll always connect. It'll always be just fine. Other times, every other time I get in the car, it's like it just goes back to FM and I have to reconnect and do the whole thing. And that's not just my experience. That's an experience that I've seen a lot of people out on the forums talking about. Another way I use this audio system for music is I've got a USB stick down here that's got a number of media songs and recordings that I like to listen to on the daily when I get tired of Pandora, when I get tired of AM, FM, and all its commercials. And that works very good. It indexes that, and then you can just play, and it works like clockwork. That is the one thing this does very well, is it plays songs off of your USB stick. And you can plug a CD player into that as well. Anything that plugs into that USB port tends to be pretty reliable in terms of using this. But Bluetooth, that's janky. All right, so let's go for a drive and talk about some of its driving characteristics that definitely need to be pointed out if you haven't seen that in a video yet. Now I'm twisting the key and hitting the start turn, but of course nothing happens because we're in a hybrid. I just get a ready to drive indicator on the instrument cluster. But as we go to pull away here, this has a very interesting little chime that comes on in reverse, very much like a garbage truck, but not nearly as annoying. So whenever you're in reverse and you're backing out of a space, it's just got that cute little sound. So while we're in slow speed situations such as in a parking lot, one thing we've got to talk about right away is a driving characteristic that this has that's given me some level of concern. And if it's not concern, it's just, wow, they didn't do better engineering than that. And that is that the brakes on this hybrid system are not the most refined in the world. They tend to be very abrupt in their engagement between regenerative braking and hydraulic braking, in that transition back and forth, particularly at slow speeds like 0 to 3 miles an hour, like when you're in a parking lot and you're pulling into a space or you're coming up to a stop sign. They just grab sometimes, and you can feel that in the pedal. And it's something that it doesn't happen all the time, and it's also something that hybrid brakes have always been known for because it's a drive-by-wire brake system. Sometimes it's very abrupt and it's very grabby, like it didn't do it here. Other times it just really, if you have a drink in your hand with coffee, you can spill your coffee when it engages abruptly or roughly. My read on this is that it's a very low level of refinement and or something I need to talk to my dealer about. So I posted a thread on the Maverick Truck Club website and started a discussion there, and a lot of people are having the same exact experience with their trucks. Now, it may very well be it's just a driving characteristic of the Ford Maverick Hybrid, but I tested recently a Ford Escape Hybrid, which has the same exact platform, the same exact powertrain and brake system, and it didn't do it. So something I'm keeping an eye on, and I'll be reporting back on a little bit later when we see how that shakes out. If it's something that goes away, if it's something that my dealer can fix, if it's something that's just becoming known as a Maverick Hybrid driving trait. Since I purchased this truck, literally 99% of all of my driving has been in the suburban city environment, from 0 to about 60 miles an hour max. I've done some freeway driving, but probably no more than 150 miles of freeway driving since I purchased this truck. And so around the city of Phoenix, we don't have the most perfect roads on this planet. Not as bad as some cities, but there's plenty of speed humps, plenty of bumps, potholes, irregular pavement characteristics to wear down a vehicle. And at the 5,000 mile mark, this truck feels every bit as solid as it did the day I drove it home. And if you watch our original test drive video, you'll see that I was pretty impressed with, for its price, how solid this feels and how comfortable this is to drive every day. Speed humps, it goes over those things without any clunks in the suspension, rattles and shakes in the structure. It doesn't feel like a POS. And at 5,000 miles, it still doesn't feel like a POS, which is great because I hate those. You know what I'm saying? So the steering feel, speed hump. Steering feel, not, it's got a numb steering feel. It's kind of dead and lifeless, but this truck is very comfortable and happy to drive around town every day. It does have its own handling personality that you're used to, and so good things to report there. Now, fuel economy. That's where we really need to talk, because this is rated at 42 mpg city. That's a city rating, right? And it's rated at 37 miles per gallon combined. Now, a lot of people scoff at that and they go, there's no way you're going to get those numbers in real life. Well, here's the deal. 5,000 miles, I have put 8 tanks of gas in this truck. And every single tank of gas, I have done the math on the gallons and the miles and come up with a per tank average that you can see there on your screen. My lowest tank was 44, my highest tank was 50.5, and we are cruising at right about 47 mpg, my mpg average over 5,000 miles. Is that not incredible? I mean, really? 47 mpg. That's well beyond what the window sticker promised. That is well beyond my expectations. And I'm driving just like you're seeing me drive right now, 0 to about 50, 60 miles an hour max around town. I'm just cruising. I'm not making a conscious effort to hypermile and drive like grandma. Now, yes, I have learned how to use the coaches that this has for regenerative braking and for getting that maximum regen coming to a stop at a stoplight. And that has helped, because that's helped my mileage get considerably better after each tank. And I attribute that to learning how to drive this truck, learning how to manipulate this machine into getting good fuel economy. And you can do it. Anybody can. It's easy. It really is. And so I'm thrilled, you know, with the fuel economy performance of this vehicle. And so a lot of people may not believe the numbers, but those are city numbers. And I know they're city numbers because, as I said, the actual amount of miles I've driven this truck on the freeway, well under 200 miles, all of it's city, just driving around town like we're doing right this minute. So there you go. Before wrapping up our little drive here, I do want to point out one little modification I've made here that you might have seen here on the interior that I didn't talk about when we were sitting here and talking about it, is this little phone holder that I made. And I sort of crafted it out of a piece of wood and some foam tape and screwed a phone holder to it. And it uses the little cubby inside the dash to actually hang my phone on, because it's right where I can see it and right where I like it. I don't have to look down and take my eyes off the road to glance over and see what's happening on my phone. I'll be doing a video on this a little bit later on how to make one of these things for like under 10, 15 bucks all in that works really well. This one was kind of put together in a hatchet kind of way. You can see it's a block of wood. You know, it's just kind of homemade, but it has a somewhat finished look, at least from my point of view here. As you might have put together by now, I am pretty pleased with my purchase of this vehicle for my business and for our long-term tester. The price was right, the fuel economy, I could not have dreamed I would be getting 46 to 47 miles to the gallon on the daily with this thing. I would have been happy if I was getting 39 or 40, you know, just a little bit close to what they promised, but to get well over that without even really trying that hard, I'm pretty stoked about that, especially with gas prices being just under $5 a gallon right now. So that's great. So a few things that you can see right up here. I have named this truck Oso Azul, and that is Spanish for blue bear. And that's because I think this just has sort of the face and personality of a blue panda bear. And I kind of like bears myself. So Oso Azul. Also on the tailgate, you can see another modification that's been done. That is the white vinyl lettering that has been applied to the tailgate. It sort of rings familiar with the lettering we see on the back of the Bronco Sports, and I just really like that contrast, and that's going to be tying in with a graphic makeover that is going to be done on this truck in the next week or so, and we'll have a full reveal video on that. That's going to be pretty big. We're going to be doing a retro look from the 1979, 1980s era, and that's going to tie in with that white lettering. One other modification that's been done is the addition of the tailgate assist strut from Ford Accessories. For 50 bucks, I think this is great. I love the soft open behavior. I used to, back in the 1980s when I was a kid, I used to like the soft open cassette decks. I'm aging myself there, I admit it. That said, there's a full install video on our playlist for not only that tailgate assist strut, but the white lettering. And there's going to be a lot more to follow. And you can see our playlist right there for all of our Maverick coverage, test drives, technical, how-to, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.